I think that was a kind of an unwanted break. You know, I wanted to stop sharing, but I end the session, so we're gonna have two videos. Okay, so can we start? We can also have
yes.
like 5 minutes break if you want, or we can continue. I'm asking the especially external reviewers because I know the others can have the luxury of having a break without giving a notice. Or are we good?
Happy to keep going.
Let's keep going. I like that. Okay. So Rio.
All right, on it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, not full screen yet, but yeah.
Okay. Good evening, good morning to everyone, wherever you are. I would like to invite you in the journey of our cube clouds of Rio. So this is an aerial view of our site in Rio de Janeiro. And we will cover by three parts. That is from mega to macro, the study of favelas, macro to meso, the study of Vidigal, that is the place of our site, and meso to micro, which tells about the detailed structure. And what are favelas actually in Rio de Janeiro? There are plenty of them. There are like 1,000 favelas in Brazil. And in Rio de Janeiro is capital city of Brazil. It's the most prominent port cities. And it is also known for sprawling favelas and founded in 1565, an area from 1,000 to 55, and population is about 6.5 million people. And what are favelas actually? Favelas are slum or shanty towns that is located within or on the outskirts of the country largest city, especially Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. And it typically comes into being a squatters occupy. And some may identify the origins of favela in Brazilian communities formed by impoverished former slaves in the late 19th centuries. But it was the great wave of migration from the countryside to the city from 1940 to 1970s. And that was primarily responsible for the increase of favelas in Brazil. And if you can see here, the locations of favelas, they are located without specific patterns on a steep hillside and close to the infrastructural network. There is no adequate explanations of the effect of their locations and topography. The strengths of favelas are the occupants are survivors and highly independent. They could make stacks of houses on top of another by using any possible materials. They are hardworking people. They run to mines to collect water when tap goes dry, which water cut it's a casual thing in favelas. They can have 3 days without water. And favelas are popular for tourism places as well. And prominent artists recorded in music video at Rio, and that is being said Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Snoop Dogg, David Guetta, Coldplay, and the others. And to sum it up, it's a place of celebrations of art, we called it. However, the weakness are houses are stacked on the top of another without proper construction method, and they are disorganized. Lack of government interventions, and government has very little interest in these favelas. Inefficient sewage system, inaccessible to potable water and waste management system, disorganized electricity distribution throughout the neighborhood, high crime rates, and that being said, police corruption that happened as well. 1 person is killed in every 23 people arrested. So we are going to debunk more of crime, water as well in the next few slides. The opportunities that we are going to create is agricultural and vegetations and also water harvesting, because we found out that agriculture comprises about 10% GDP employs about 20% of the labor force and accounts about 20% of export revenue. So it's a very huge it's a very huge chunk of intervention in the GDP itself. So this is our site plan. The center is our site. It may look pixelated, but actually that is our site. So the site has only one main road that is located in the front, beside the seashore. And in the nearby radius, it has primary school that is shaded in yellow, and hotels and restaurants. So to get deeper into the site, this is how it looks. We're going to see few sections to cut through. Oh yeah, also this is the standpoint. If you can see here, so I'm taking you to the site. So this is how it looks in the existing site. So the favelas are disorganized and they are being stacked and stacked without proper construction method. And they are facing the ocean, which they have a view. So this is how the side entrance of our site. It's very, very limited space. It's about maybe 5 feet or 1.5 meters. So we are going to do a little bit of intervention in putting our parasite architecture on top of our host buildings.
Hello, I'm going to talk about meso to macro. Can I share my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, when we were exploring the shape of, so what we are proposing is an urban farm, is an urban vegetation site with additional parasitic spaces. Actually, the site allowed us to locate the parasite to the roof. And so while doing some research on the form of the urban farm or the vegetation, these are some of the sketches that we started with. And so actually the shape developed into an organic shape when we were exploring the canopy. And so this canopy actually protects the people from the sun, and it actually acts as a barrier. And so we explored the CAD logic behind it. And by means of vegetation, parasitic spaces, voxels, so we made a research using the cubes, which actually allowed us to locate the parasite inside the favelas, and we were still able to create some stairs as well. So then we decided to voxel everything, so everything was similar and into similar shapes as the cubes. Then everything became similar, and then we integrated stairs into the design, and the whole circulation is inside the favelas, and it creates some journey as well. So then we analyzed the heat accumulation, and this heat accumulation actually helped us to decide where to put the vegetation, where to put the views, and where to put the parasitic spaces. And we can actually select where we see the sun, and we can actually take those parts out. So it actually helped us to create some sense of porosity as well. So while introducing porosity, as you can see the pavilion structure here, we got inspired from the CAD logic project as well. So where we want to put the heat, we have frames, and where we want to protect the people, we have timber. So the material we are using is timber, which is a very local material in Rio de Janeiro. And then we introduced some frames. We aggregated some frames, and so basically our design is carried by frames, which collects everything, and which also proposes some platforms. And in those platforms, people can walk to the vegetation boxes, they can urban farm there. And these frames basically support the rails which is there in order for people to not to fall from the roofs. And this is our design evaluation. As you can see, we have some color codes here. So the green symbolize the urban farm with vegetation boxes, and water symbolizes the parasitic approach to the port city. Actually, we are watering the vegetation coming from the rain and ocean. And the red symbolizes our pavilion, our parasitic spaces, our stairs. So here is a section, and in this section you can clearly see the distinction between a private space, a semi-private space, and a public space. So number one is the private space and residential inside favela. People have families, people eat dinner there, people come from work there. And number two is our parasitic space. So it can be used as a library, cafe, and so we are basically eating space from the parasite, and we are offering new spaces to more public people. And we can also use toilet there as well. And number three is the public space, which people are going to sell the goods from the vegetation to make money. So we are also offering people some job opportunities. And there's another section here. So the numbers are the same. The number one represents the favelas and the residential. So number two symbolizes the parasitic space that we propose. And the darker gray is the toilet cabins. And number three is again the market hall. And in this section, you can see how we collect the rainwater and water from ocean, but my colleague is going to explain more on this topic. So this is a sectional perspective, and you can see how do we form a relationship with the host building, and how do we take people from the bottom to the top of the roof. And this is a plan. Actually, so we eat some of the spaces inside the residentials, but we leave some of the spaces to the favelas as well. So this is from the most private to the most public. And we have an elevator. We are also taking into account disabled people, and people can use the stairs. This can be used more of core stairs, which is found inside the favelas. For the future expansion, we can use these clusters of cubes repeating themselves inside favelas, because Rio de Janeiro has 1,000 and more favelas. So where this project can be done, it can change, it's flexible. And how do we approach the construction workflow? So at first, we analyze the situation in the favelas. It doesn't matter if it's Vidigal, Santa Marta, Rocinha. So we analyze which type of vegetation we can use there, how many kilograms can be produced. And then we figure out sourcing, and as maybe a truck driver, or as for the firms, we can offer local job opportunities. And then at the site, we use some construction robots to help us produce the timbers. And then in the assembly process, we again invite the locals to take active part, so that they have sustainable jobs as well. And also we can offer an app for this, so it can repeat itself. And so it can have an interface as the opening hours, and as Bibi also suggested, usually there are lots of concerts in favelas, so it can also indicate an upcoming event. And locals can also apply for a job here, even as to work in the market hall, restaurant, library, cafe, or as a construction worker, or as an urban farmer. And it can also have an employee login where people can analyze and decide on vegetation accordingly. And even the app can also give alert to the employees, such as clean the water in the second floor voxel, and so, and it can also give information about when some type of vegetation is ready to be harvested. like soybeans, grapes, vets, and tomatoes.
So let me share my screen. So as you can see, we are using the cube as voxels as the main elements. So we found the dimension from the average floor height of the favelas. That is approximately 3 meters. Then others voxels are like 1.5 meters, then 76 centimeters and 38 centimeters. The voxels will connect in the middle. There is a hook there so that they will not move vertically, and then there will be a clip which will be connected to each other on the horizontally so that they will not move there. So in terms of typology, there are several types of voxels. One will be a basic frame, then the main material will be the frame or will be the timber, then basic voxels. There will be the panel will be of wood or recycled wood. Then there will be platform voxels which will be used as platforms, then wire mesh to support the ivy plants, then vegetation voxels, then some solar voxels. The dimension of the frame in section, these are 76 millimeters. So here we can see the platform, how the one unit is coming together and create bigger elements and some multiple elements of some multiple characteristics. So there will be 2 layers of voxel. The outside layer will contain all the facilities like the water storage, vegetation box, then the normal voxels, and the inside will be aggregation layer, which will be directly connected with the slab of the favelas. Then here we can see the pavilion in top view. This pavilion will hold the rain collector system and as well as some vegetation box on the top of it, so that they can grow some ivy type of plants. And the detail of the pavilion elements will follow the same characteristics of the voxels, just they will have multiple horizontal clip. Here we can see the overall pavilion. We create some porosity with the solid voxels here. Then here we can see the combined, how all of the voxels come together and create one system here. So here are some visualizations about the space we created, that we actually used a very rigid form, but we follow the organic characteristics of the favelas, so that the whole thing actually create a beautiful organic space, though the element is pretty rigid geometrical element. And here you can see another view from the Parasite. The urban farming will be more automated. When it can be controlled automatically, or they can be controlled manually. There will be some automated machines to control the maintenance, the seeding, the water plantation, etc. So yeah, Bibi, you can take over now.
All right, thank you. Okay. So for water harvesting, we are having rainwater harvesting as a primary source, which the water catchment will take place on the top of the pavilion, and then the pipe will flow to the nearby water tank or water storage. And the secondary source will be ocean water as a complementary and secondary source of water, which might be a little bit expensive because it costs high pressure pump, and then there's a lot of steps like pre-treatment, membrane modules, post-treatments, and these require electricities. And so there's a sample of cost productions here that it costs about 1.5 USD per meter cube, and the storage is only 54 meter cube per tank, and we have only 10 cubes. That's about 500 meter cube. Yeah. Okay, and proceed. So we are going to have color codes in placing our vegetations, planter box. We have about 5 colors in total, and these are separated in this way. So we have 2 types of planter box. So the one on the wall will have vines or creepers, as you can see, this one on the right side. And on the ground planter box will be trees and shrubs. So they are located according to the temperature, because the side is facing oceans, they are facing sunrise, and they are facing the sunset. So those the planter box that is facing the sea receive more heat. So this is how we separate our planter box to make sure the tree grows perfectly fine. And why do we have just continuations about ocean water? Why do we want to consider this as a complementary source? Because Rio has heavy rainfall, but it does have dry season as well in the short term, June and August. So perhaps we can use this as a complementary source when the rainfall goes a little bit unpredictable or when it's dry season. And to conclude our approach, our parasitic approach towards resilient community, favela residents are in general marginalized community that are not heard by the authorities. That said, hence their basic needs such as clean water, employment issues are left poorly attended. So to offer a sense of security to the neighborhood, a successful public space is an area that is accessible by people, provide comfort in circulation, and that creates active social engagement. So having a public space introduced into the area have the potential to prevent crimes. So violent crimes such as murder, assault, and armed robbery occur less often in greener neighborhood. So to offer calmness through narrow street inside favelas by the poetic play of void in discuss it. It is a form of expression, getting to a void space in a heavily condensed neighborhood. In short, a space to breathe. And this is one of our favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And that's all.
Okay, maybe
That's
while
a cute
that video is playing on the background, we can already start. Maybe you can go
Yeah.
on. I don't know.
All right.
But maybe we can open the comments.
All right.
Yeah. Christoph, Heeyoun, Adib, Asma. Okay, you're too shy. Okay. Heeyoun, maybe you start. I know that like it's so late. Maybe you give us the last comment and then go and sleep. Or you already asleep.
Me?
Okay, almost. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. It was pretty interesting and pretty directly connected to the social issue. And interesting part was that yeah, the end result geometry is pretty connected to the real context, actually, other than other projects. One thing I would like to ask about the materialization or how to build the modules of pavilion. Can we go to the slides? Maybe the pavilion thing, the very vertical wood frames. Can we see the slides?
Yeah, 44.
Yeah.
Slide 44.
Maybe, yeah, these things. So generally, yeah, they are aggregating together, and there are some solid module or a little bit empty modules. So I'm wondering, yeah, same thing. How will you control some structure issue? Now I can see also that some part would have a very long cantilever thing. Now, but however, this modularized system is pretty simple. It's just vertically, it will just extend, scale up the length, the height, and then, but the horizontally, they just attach it together. Now, at the time, the centralized, the spine core would have a very huge stress. So how would you control that issue? I wonder about that.
Actually, all of the elements are basically interconnected horizontally with the clip. If you, BB, if you can go the 42, slide number 42. So the base will be, the frames of the base will be more thickened and more stable, and the frames will be, the thickness will be gradually reduced in the lesser stress area, and then gradually increase in the higher stress area to the base column, basically. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it would be great to show that kind of information to this drawing, but for me, especially from the top view, every module looks like similar. Only there is some only differences between solid or empty modules. But yeah, if there is that kind of a solution, maybe it could be yeah, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, I think it's a cool project. I like it. I like the geometries you're creating and the spaces that you're creating and the functions that you're creating for the people there. One thing I was wondering, it looks like you're using a lot of material for the structure. One thing I was wondering was kind of, I suppose, about the cost of building it. And I'm kind of assuming that the favelas don't have that much money left over. So I think it could be interesting to maybe also see if there's things like waste wood products that you could use to construct it, or maybe green wood or bamboo or so. I don't know exactly what is available in Rio, but I think it would be great to kind of have something that is very inexpensive that you can use for the construction. And you could still use still build the frames and so on, even if it's out of bamboo or something. Maybe it's not a square section anymore, but it should be much cheaper. One thing I was wondering, like in your plans and sections, it always seems that your grid fits absolutely perfectly into the existing buildings. I'm kind of guessing the existing ones in your early plans, existing ones look kind of all over the place and a little bit random, whereas in your section suddenly everything lines up perfectly. I think it will be interesting to see more closely how the new structure works with the existing ones. Kind of a little bit similar to some things we discussed in the previous projects. And I think it's interesting if they don't, you know. I think it's interesting to see what happens if you have a gap, and how do you bridge the gap, or how do you bridge different floor levels, and you come out of your apartment, but then you have to kind of step up or down in order to reach a different level. also you started doing this a little bit with the distribution of which cube becomes what kind of unit, and you place the trees at the bottom and so on. I think it would be interesting to kind of do this in more depth, to kind of define, based on the existing surrounding buildings and programs and streets that you have there, try and devise some rule-based system of how do you distribute volume, how do you distribute circulation spaces, how do you distribute all kinds of different spaces within the space. So you mentioned some things that the structure will provide shade for the people who live there, for example, in the beginning. So I think maybe it could be interesting to then think, where exactly do you need those shaded spaces? And maybe you have thought about it, I don't know, but it could be nice to kind of do it more, maybe a little bit like the previous group, you know, do some analysis, and based on an analysis decide, okay, here is where we need shade, here is where we get sunlight enough to grow tomatoes, and in other places we don't, and maybe not everything has to be filled up with your voxels, and some spaces could just remain empty and unused, you know?
Yes, some spaces we left empty. Bibi, can you go to the sun analysis? We actually did that, and the reason why we have the porosity in the pavilion is that we want to keep the outer ones. Empty because it has lots of sun here. Wasimul, can you mute? I'm hearing noises. Oh, okay. Yeah. So we are leaving the outer pavilion with empty, because otherwise they would have accumulated lots of sun there. And we are having the core column of the pavilion with solids, because we did that sun path analysis. And as you can see in these, we actually distributed our vegetation accordingly. But we still have porosity, so some of the frames are empty and some of the frames are full with vegetation.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it would be great to see something similar for the upper part, really, you know, to decide where do you place your main roof structure and so on. But yeah, I think that's great. I guess maybe the only other thing that goes in a similar direction is kind of more on a programmatic level, about you placing the different programs and how do those relate to the existing programs, I think is also a question. So you are placing certain plants to grow and so on. I think the one cube you're missing is the chicken cube, you know, where the chicken live. But also then, how does every apartment get a certain amount of tomatoes and chickens or something like this, you know? Or where do you place them in? Yeah, if you have a certain amount of units, how much communal space do you need for those people living there, and those kind of questions, to kind of do it on a sunlight analysis, also do it on the programmatic level, and also on the kind of circulation level. Maybe it's just a matter of pointing it out, you know, of how much circulation you need in order to provide for what is there already.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Adib or Asma, you wanna?
Yeah, I exactly wanted to mention the same thing, Christoph. First of all, amazing project. I really liked it. And I think it was bold and brave. And I kind of like the fact that you didn't go too technical, because sometimes when you have a good idea, then you have to think about the process, but not exactly how to build it or how does it perform, because then it kills the project. And I really like that, and how you created this puzzle of different elements and then put them together. But one thing that exactly I was wanted to mention, that like I still don't understand what happens to the people that are living in those apartments, because you're still like the previous group, you're blocking their views. So the sun analysis that I can see is on the boxes, but what happens to the facade of the existing building there? This is something that is a bit vague for me. Another thing that I would have liked to see in your project, that you have a system that you can apply it in all these buildings, and maybe it's not something that it's only applied on this specific 2-3 blocks together, but it starts to grow horizontally towards the neighborhood. And maybe in your renders that you're showing us, we needed to see also some of these small elements going to the neighborhoods, so we can see, okay, that's the system that they're using as a general system. And it's not that for that building, and it's not the facade of this building. It's a parasitic system. But in general, I really liked it, and maybe you can elaborate more a bit on how the people that are inside this existing building interact with outside.
Yeah, they actually have a very short access path to the terrace and the public space. So actually we offer new public places to the people, because at night they usually experience crime. So we offer them a new space without crime, because it's going to be crowded, it's going to be full with people. So they can spend time at the roof of the favela, and then they can just simply come down without experiencing any crime, any other harm.
But you're still blocking their views during the day, right? Somehow.
Yes, we sacrifice the views of the residents. Yeah.
We did not cover 360-degree with the aggregation. We only covered like one corner. I think on this plan, we only cover this corner. We do not cover the whole 360-degree. So, and on this section, which I think only this floor that we are taking it into, and we are creating an assumptions that we are gonna sacrifice 2 units of house, so that we create circulations inside the host building. So that is the assumptions that we thought about it, like in order to make our project to enhance the circulations of because you can see like in the central it has a very interesting circulation. So in this one, yeah, so this circulation. So when people just go all the way out without landing, without internet, without a break in the middle, it's going to be tiring. So instead, we create an entertainment in between the space. So I think this is the only space in the middle that we have to sacrifice in order to merge with our parasitic idea. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Okay. Let's move on to the Asma. You want?
Sure. Thank you for your presentation. So I think like here you suggested a kind of programmable urban scale project. I can define it in this way, which for this complex, context that you choose, and also, just considering the participatory system and way of like working together, I think it's an interesting. And so I like that, how you put it together. But at the same time, I remember that at Porto Festival some years ago, I watched some movie about like Rio de Janeiro, and it's called The City of Gods. And it was exactly about the case of favelas. And from the beginning, I was thinking that it was some kind of a ghetto. But when it started, I saw that it's much more than that. I mean, it's like about crimes, about drug smuggling, about, there are lots of things happening. And I think that, the just issue of like favelas in particular and urban informalities in general, I think it's one of the like key topics in the context of Brazil and also Rio de Janeiro. So at the same time, I was thinking like about your project and also the different kind of comparative context. I was thinking about the Southeast Asia and about the context of Kuala Lumpur. At the same time, I was thinking like about the recent Routledge handbook that I saw about these cases in Rio de Janeiro and more. So here I decided after just, hearing your project to go back and watch this City of Gods movie again. I remember that at some point, even Obama just had a visit from the favela in Rio de Janeiro, just to raise the consciousness about this, how it's important, to just considering about. So I think about the selection of the, project, you were bold enough. So these are just comments from my side, and I will share for you some of the links that I mentioned here. So thank you. I think it was most comments rather than just, asking a question. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It feels so good to hear that comments.
Okay, cool. Let's move to the last project. So we are one project behind than what we were proposing in the beginning, but I hope you guys stay with us. So Sam, Luai, and Hakeem, please move on with your presentation.
Yes.
And bring some energy to the
Yeah.
way we present, because it's the
Will
last
do.
presentation. So you had the courage to be the last, but also you have the chance to lead us to a good ending. Thank you.
So I'm Hassan Abdul Ghani, and my teammates are Ibrahim Hakim and Luay Abdul Muttalib.
Can you go to the full screen mode?
Okay. Yeah. I'm Hassan Abdul Ghani, and my teammates are Ibrahim Hakim and Luay Abdul Muttalib. And our project is in Alexandria, Egypt, and it's called Upturned. One second. It's called Upturned Jeopardy towards the resilient waterfront in Alexandria. Alexandria is a city in Egypt, and its area is 2,600 square kilometers. It's 5 meters above the sea level, and its population is 5,200,000 in 2018. And for the amount of area the city occupies, the population density is very high. And to give a brief history about the relevance and the impact of Alexandria cultural heritage, Alexandria was founded in 331 BC by Alexander the Great. It was a major center of Hellenic civilization. Alexandria was best known for the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and its great library. It was the intellectual and cultural center of the ancient Mediterranean for much of the Hellenistic age and late antiquity. And Alexandria is still considered the intellectual and cultural capital of Egypt. Alexandria today is considered the 2nd capital of Egypt, the 3rd largest city in Egypt, and the 7th largest city in Africa, and the largest city on the Mediterranean, as well as the 79th largest urban area by population on Earth, also a major economic center. And the city extends about 40 kilometers at the northern coast of Egypt, and it's located in northern Egypt on the west bank of the Nile and the Mediterranean shore, and is 225 kilometers from the capital. And we started the studio with exploring cities which are in an immediate need to become more resilient due to environmental and societal challenges. And Alexandria was one of the most interesting cities for us. It's in danger of being submerged in the near future, and also the consequences of the lack of awareness, what made the exploration more interesting and more challenging for us. In the site, we choose most of the challenges in Alexandria faces exist, actually. We chose a site along the Corniche in Alexandria, and the Corniche is a waterfront promenade Corniche in Alexandria, Egypt, running along the eastern harbor, and it's one of the major corridors for traffic in Alexandria, and it runs for over 10 miles. and the Corniche shore is highly occupied by unsustainable buildings which block the sea view and the accessibility to the sea, which also results in high people density on the accessible areas. And based on the topography and the previous incidents, the site is highly endangered by floods and dilapidated sewage, waste, and drainage systems. The seashore within the site is endangered by erosion from wave movement to the shore, and also the building's foundations on the shore cause saltwater intrusion, which contaminate freshwater resources and harm the ecosystem. And also the lack of biodiversity, which affects the ecosystem and the human society. And our vision is a parasitic system on the urban scale that can spread throughout Alexandria, which adapts to the surrounding area context as speculation on the future vision of the system grows. And on the macro to meso scale, it's an architectural living structure at the scale of a unit based on environmental function and structural challenges, integrating the community in the development process and the feedback loop. And on the meso to micro scale, a component system that can produce various alternatives and adapt to the corresponding context using a robotic production system for fabrication based on the used materials. And this animation shows our speculation on how this system can be spread throughout the potential sites in Alexandria. And moving forward, our intervention intent is to produce a starting point to the resilient city and community, and an architectural living structure at the scale of a bridge and residential extension will be implemented based on the site and the city contextual conditions and challenges. The structure will also act as the first cell from which a parasitic goals will connect and coexist with the existing structure in order to promote resiliency. This the site plots, and it's 50 meters by 200 meters, and the building area is roughly 50% of this site plot. And this diagram shows the massing of the context and the built urban fabric surrounding the site and the relation to the Corniche. And these are initial sketches and how we imagine this structure goes or this structure relation to the context. And we wanted to design a structure which has the flexibility to grow and be adjusted in different areas. As you see here, it connects to the surrounding buildings and also has the ability, and this connects to materiality somehow, also has the ability to promote biodiversity in the place. And as you see here, these are conceptual sketches from the beginning. And we started to speculate on the relation between the structure and the surroundings and how we imagine this system gonna work. And the site actually has this dangerous curve which is the cause for many accidents. And also we have these compacted residential units, and we have this unsustainable buildings as I said before on the seashore, and it blocks the access, it blocks everything. So from here we started to think of a process, and this process was making a growing system which produces somehow chaos that can grow, but based on order and limitations. So we started to think of making a point cloud, and from this point cloud we make like curves connecting them, and giving instructions to agents and making a swarm. To this formed a chaotic geometry, and after this we isosurfing the geometry and optimize it to make it more feasible for fabrication. Also to connect to the local craftsmen, which has the craft to build chips with wood. And this makes this community feedback loop again to the growing system. And so on and so forth. And from the beginning, we thought about the materials we're gonna use. So we thought about using cement-based concrete and mycelium and wood. And the reason why we chose cement-based concrete is that when parts of the structure gets submerged underwater, it has the potential to support coral species and hence promote biodiversity. And we chose mycelium because it's durable, lightweight, and biodegradable, and it's made out of fungus roots. It has the capacity to support vegetation and bird habitats. Also, we chose the wood as a roofing material, and we use the local craftsmen in Alexandria, which has the craft of making ships and make the sense of community participation and resiliency. And all these materials are there in Egypt, and it can be easily made. As I said before, these were our initial attempts to make this point cloud and curves and so on. And we produce this form, and we try to rationalize the spaces, but it was very limited, and it was very randomized, and it wasn't working. So we thought of making this. We thought of making this organic shape and how we're gonna make it stably structurally stable. So we thought of exploring the funicular structure and how we're gonna like integrate this funicular structure with the swarm intelligence or the agent-based modeling. So this was our first attempt to test the system. And we started with doing a basic funicular structure, and we started to give the agent some instruction to make somehow spaces and geometry, but the geometry was very chaotic, and it wasn't easy to make it feasible and to make it rationalized. So moving forward, we needed to make this initial system and to see how we're gonna go. So we tested the system in another way. We made a base grid, and we simulated the funicular structure and made a geometry out of that. And after that, we made this second layer of structure out of mycelium. And the first layer of structure is out of concrete, the cement-based concrete, and it's self-supported. And the second layer is from mycelium, and it connects between the wood, the roofing wood, and the first layer, and it's very lightweight and very durable. And after that, this was just to test the system. After that, we started designing and made the initial base grade based on the anchors and axes. And with the same process we made also the funicular structure base simulation, and we made the geometry out of it, and we made this mycelium connects to the sides and to the roofing, and to make this kind of integration. Also, we thought about the spaces. We were testing the spaces, so we thought about this incremental growth, and we defined the spaces as you see, and the growth it reaches to an equilibrium point when it doesn't grow anymore. But we thought of making the first grow as a structural element, and as it goes to the smaller cells, it can be used for biodiversity and supporting plants and the birds' habitat. And we made this iterative process to see to make it more solid. So like this diagram shows the macro scale, and based on the contextual analysis and the growth simulation, we have an output, and this output inform the mesoscale. And again, based on structural analysis and the growth simulation, this output informs the micro scale, and based on materiality and community production and fabrication, this output informs again the macro scale, and so on and so forth. And all this informs the design, and it's being evaluated, and so back and so forth until we reach the final form. So our final design process was making the base grid and making the funicular structural base grid and making geometries out of the base grid. And we introduced another level for direct connection. And we made this vertical equilibrium to make the funicular structure stable, as you see here. to make it more stable. And after that, we make the masonry structure geometry and the wooden roof structure. And we introduced the logic of making the spaces. So we introduced these spatial clusters, which the mycelium will grow on top of it. And here you can see the clusters we have and the spaces we have, and the mycelium goes out of it. Here's some of the clusters that were generated and produced. And here, this diagram showed the morphology of the final form. And as intended, the form connects to the surrounding urban fabric from the beginning, forms an axis over the corniche and accommodates different activities on it. And the following are some views of the generated form. As you can see, the relation to the context. And here, this animation shows the different levels of the bridge, which showing the spaces created in the mycelium structures and the integration between different materials. And the following shows these spaces and the existing site hosts different activities, and these activities were accommodated on the bridge, and new spaces for reading, observation decks, community gathering spaces like space for theater, street arts were introduced to show the potential of such an intervention. And here are the different levels of the bridge that show the integration between all the elements. And the following animations and fiction shows the spaces created within the bridge and the potential that the system has to accommodate different activities. There's another section from the other side. And I will let Hakim continue with the fabrication process.
Yes, as for the fabrication design, we will first discuss the content of the project with structures and also the connections. This section provides the main component of the structure system, and it consists of mainly three materials, which are the concrete and the mycelium and also the wood frame structure. First, we can see here that the concrete is not completely filled in. It has a large void which will be filled in with the mycelium core, which will act as the main light structure that can go through all the other structures and enhance even the structure of the wood and also the concrete. Next slide has also another view of the section demonstrating also the content of all three sections. And in addition, we can see from these sections the geography path that the mycelium will take and they will shape to hold the whole project. And also for the concrete, we can see that it can contain others components like the pipes, which will have the electricity and rainwater drainage. And next slide, we will discuss about the connections between every sections of every element of these. The connections and how they can interact. First, there is the connection between the wood and the concrete until even it reached to the mycelium core. it can be reached by this steel hook anchor. So it can hold every layer on the surface of the concrete. And next one, we have a description of how the concrete will be filled in with the mycelium and the geometry that it shaped until it exits the surface of the concrete to shape the bubbly mycelium structure outside of the core slab. And also the next one, we can see that how the mycelium can go through the wood itself. And so we firstly make the wood frame, and we print out the mycelium between every squared framed wood structure. After that, we can see also the hinge system for the foundation. It consists of mainly two hinges, has parts with metal base plates that can connect to the base concrete system, and it can also attach it with a 15mm solid steel band that can be mainly enhance the stability of the whole structures. Next one, we will see we'll continue with the Loai talking about the other part of the fabrication. Yes.
Okay, so now we're talking about construction and how we're actually going to realize that in real world. Mainly, we have to deal with the masonry structure layer, and then the mycelium printed layer, and then there's the wooden structure on top of that. In the next slide, we can actually see that maybe if we can actually work with a wooden frame that actually be the support of the construction layer, and making it out of blocks that actually use compression to be self-supporting in this manner, and then build on top of that, and then use the local fabrication of the wood and the 3D printing for the mycelium, and how this actually integrates together. Maybe we can have the solution. And the next one, we can actually have to see how these all systems work together. We start with the wooden frame, and that's actually where we start to construct the concrete blocks with the hollows inside of it that get filled with the mycelium, and having the metal braces and that actually support this. And then when we're done with the concrete layer, and it should be self-supporting and as it's designed to be in compression, then we move to the wooden frames, and actually how it's actually related to the local craftsmanship of the people that actually Alexandria used to be a place for the ships fabrication. And that's how actually we can get this craftsmen to work on these projects, and actually use the local wood materials that actually used in the ships itself. And then with another level of intervention with the robotic fabrication, and how actually we can use it to 3D print the mycelium and actually get a specific printing with and the intersections with the wooden frames itself. So in the next slides, we can actually get to the visualizations and how actually the project is perceived. So this is the seashore side, and how it's actually the bridge extends to this seashore, and this is from the residential side, and how it actually connects to the buildings surrounding it. And then we move to it's a little bit slow. And then this is how it's actually the view for the pedestrians that are moving under the bridge, and then we get to see the spaces created from the intersection between the mycelium, and how actually the biodiversity adds to the quality of the space in the inside, and how actually we can have multi-levels in this scenario, and having different activities depending on the place. Okay. And then the next slide, this is like the detailed aerial view for the project.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and this how like in the context of the like how it actually connects with like the water from one side, the residential units from one side, how it's actually like getting over the pedestrian streets and like the vehicle routes and so on, and then like how it's actually can be perceived in the interior and interior quality and so on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So,
I can start with,
yeah, go first, Adib.
yeah. Amazing, guys. It was really nice. I can see you did a lot and you worked on it a lot, and that's really nice. One thing, a general comment, I guess, when you're good at computational design and like technicality, sometimes it's a bit hard to like keep consistency because you have a lot of ideas and then you just try to superimpose them on top of each other. And I guess it's a really nice project, but some of them, some parts I don't understand why. So for instance, you started with the process, like to explain the process, and then so we have point cloud, and we have swarm intelligence, and then agent-based systems, and then we have the geometry and the optimization. This is basically it's any system with swarm intelligence is like that. So what is it specific to this project? Like, what are the rules that you're talking about when we're talking about swarm intelligence? This is something that we know, because the rest is technicality. And the other thing that I didn't understand at the end is that, so we have this masonry surface, and then we have the wooden structure. So what is the role of this mycelium structure here? Is it like architectural or structural? This is also something that I don't understand. I want to know. And at the end of the day, again, because you did a very good technical job, I'm just giving you technical comments also. I don't see this surface to be a compression only surface, because it's flat on top, and then we have these legs going down with a certain degree, and it's not optimized. Like this is not the structure. This is not going to structure work like this, I guess. Or if it does, maybe it would be really good if we could see a structural analysis of how this surface is has some legs that are super. They're not steep at all, and there is no column on the bottom. So how does it work like structurally? Because I didn't understand this part also. And in general, I really liked it. So maybe you can elaborate more on this process and maybe the role of the mycelium and how this surface is standing.
Yeah, at the beginning, the process was optimizing the chaotic shape and giving the instruction to the agents. It wasn't working because it was so chaotic, and controlling them wasn't that easy to make to rationalize the spaces. So we needed to develop on top of this, and we shifted that to making this incremental growth out of the clusters we have. And this is the first thing. And the second thing about the structure, it has so many legs. So if after making a structural analysis in Rhinovolt, it gave us this change in shape. It made it more vaulty, and the fact that it has more legs in like after like 10 meters or 15 meters. This makes the stability on the smallest or the shortest span. So this is what holds it together, and the fact that the whole structure is sloped. The whole thing is sloped under the ground. This also affects the stability of the structure. These are the things that somehow make it structurally stable. And of course, it needs more, if it's going to be implemented, it needs more structure analysis and more rationalizing of it. That's true. And the third thing about using the mycelium has this role of making the whole structure, because again, it connects to that structure that the mycelium, the concrete slabs are filled with mycelium because it's durable and it's lightweight. So we make the whole structure durable, and also we have this advantage of being lightweight. And also on top of this second layer of parasitism, to make it more flexible, making this material that can be biodegradable and can be like the feedback loop from the community can change the space. I can take it out. I can make a space larger, and I can like take out a whole space and change the whole cluster based on this feedback. We wanted to introduce this flexibility in this second layer of parasitism, and yeah, and also the fact that it promotes biodiversity, even if from the sea direction or from the bridge itself, because it has this ability to like assist plants or to make plants grow on top of it, and that shows in the renders. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kim, if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Thank you for very interesting presentation, and I really like the end result, the design, and then final geometry. But I also have some opinion about end result. Can we go to the slide to show the exploded axonometric? I remember there's one slide have some very simple. Yeah, this one. So generally, I assumed this project it's a very organic and pretty could include a lot of user experience from the very chaotic but organized, optimized shape, and then probably you aimed that. But as we can see, by checking this simplified axonometric drawing, topologically this project has a very flattened structure. So there are very huge one platform, and then one some bridge, inside bridge will be on top of it, and then there's some organic structure of is inside, and then the one big shell had covered the whole structure. So maybe this, of course, this is a probably personal or very subjective opinion, but as we can see in the general shape, maybe that kind of language could be extended to more three-dimensional activity or shape or design, and then the shape, structure, and the functionality will be integrated into one user experience. But for me, it's now it's a little bit far from there. But of course, there is always a project has a limitation, time, and etc. So it could be some opinion to improve this project from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, very cool project. I think in terms of what the design looks like, as well as the graphics you've produced. So I certainly like that very much. I think my comments go a little bit along the line of Adib's about, I kind of agree that I think you're using kind of 3 different systems in your structure. You're also kind of using more than one kind of way of generating those. And I think usually projects are very strong if they become very specific and look at one kind of thing really in depth, rather than trying to combine a lot of different things. And for that reason, I'm kind of wondering if I don't know if the mycelium structure is really necessary, or if mycelium is necessary, if maybe instead of the wooden structure, the upper canopy could have been made out of mycelium or so. I'm not convinced that the agents really help you here. But I think in the end, we can go back to the beginning of your presentation, and what you said was you were looking for a city that needs to become more resilient urgently. And you started with this image of the city submerged underwater. And I guess my main question to you now at the end of your project would be, well, how does your intervention make the city more resilient? And I think to a certain extent, I mean, if you're creating a higher level and maybe people can still travel across the city, if it is submerged, you know, that might make the city more resilient. I don't know if that's enough to save the city from drowning. But I think it's good if you have a very specific question and you try and use your computational tools to answer that question, you know. And for example, I think it makes sense to use the funicular design in order to create this kind of higher level that people can travel across, you know. I'm kind of wondering how specific you can make it, and you propose some kind of construction systems that I don't know if the concrete needs a mycelium core, for example, you know, or if it has to be even concrete, if maybe stone or bricks might even be more sustainable and resilient material to use to construct it. And I can see some point in having a lightweight structure above that encloses the space, and that could be wood or mycelium. I see you want to be using wood because you can involve the local craftsmen. I understand you want to use mycelium because it's lightweight and green and whatever. But then we're coming to the point we're trying to combine all kinds of different aspects into one design, and it makes the kind of point of the project less clear, you know. And then the question becomes, what is your aim? You know, do you want to support the local craftsmen and keep them going, or do you want to make some structure that people can circulate on when the city is submerged, or do you want to provide some kind of space for plants with the mycelium structure? And I think it's probably a good idea to be very specific in what your structure is trying to achieve, and choose your construction method, your design, your computational tools according to whatever you want to achieve, basically. And I mean, I liked your approaches and so on, you know. I liked how you kind of defined, for example, where does your surface touch the ground, and that defines the geometry of the surface in turn, because you're using optimization method and so on. I loved all those things, you know. I think it's great. Like if you look at the detail of all the things you did, I think it's great decisions you've taken, you know. I just wonder if your structure now tries to answer too many things, and then maybe you lose the overall kind of aim of it a little bit. But I mean, in general, I think the project is very cool. I love it. I think you've made great use of the computational tools. I think you've done some great graphics, the exploded axons, the movable sections here, the videos. I think they're all very cool, and yeah, great project.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Christoph. Maybe we also hear from Asma for, also as a last comment, then you guys can reply. Yeah, would be easier probably.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really enjoyed your presentation, graphics, and all the diagrams. I think that it was quite an advanced project in terms of the forms and morphology, and I really enjoyed. And it was, for me, it was quite organic. But building upon what Christoph mentioned, I exactly have the same question. I was wondering that, you know, because you showed us the 3-layer in terms of the construction process. And I want to just suggest that the wood, I mean, can it, like, the wood structure can hold the whole building instead of the concrete? I think it's exactly the same maybe comment that Christoph raised, and I want to just build upon that, because I think that maybe the wood is more stable. I don't know, I had some hesitation about how you define this, you know, kind of the materials and the building material and the structures that you kind of showed in this exploded diagram kind of. And my major comment is like about the Alexandria itself. So Alexandria is like, it's very well known, you know, Mediterranean port city for its cultural aspect. And I guess that the site that you choose, that is more or less close to the Alexandria Biblioteca, which is like one of the, you know, major points. I was wondering how you responded to this cosmopolitan, you know, kind of nature of Alexandria, considering its past, its present, and its future. You know, I was wondering to see that how you responded to this specific, you know, kind of port city, because it's Alexandria. I mean that, and yeah, because I was like invited in Leiden recently in as part of the Alexandria Urban Imaginary project. And so it was like, the idea was to use like exactly your project, to use the, you know, kind of digital, you know, innovations, new technologies to bring back the urban, you know, identity, and also, you know, the cultural identity of Alexandria. I was wondering that if your project can respond to these challenges. And so these are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, please.
So for connecting to Alexandria, Alexandria was always a place where culture or this richness of knowledge flourish, and also connects to another question, that this connection or integration with the new methods of building and construction with the local craftsmen, and making this participation. That's what makes it interesting for us, and not making the ordinary or the same modern structure there, and also to make it more durable. And in this case, the concrete would be more durable to hold also this connect to the another question, to hold the mycelium part on top of it. And one of the main reasons to make this mycelium part on this second layer of Barticism is to make it it connects to the culture of the place, to make it more interesting as an experience, to not just make it a bridge that people can go through. It helps to shift this chaos that's there, that it attracts people. It's not just about crossing the road. No, it's about having this experience. It's about because people there, they will just cross the road. They will have accidents, and you need to change this somehow, to change the how they perceive this. So making this new experience to there, and making this community spaces also inside, and this helps maintain the identity of the place. It's not contradicting it. And another thing about the using these different structures, like using the vernacular structure with concrete, and then using the mycelium and the wood. the wood to make this covering, the cover of, it's all about the collaboration between the place and between the new technology. So I using the local craftsmen and giving them the opportunity to work hand in hand with the new technology. This would be really interesting, and having this lightweight mycelium on top of it. This also was a rational decision that we made, because if you we needed to have this organic shape or organic character, and still has the flexibility to change, still has the flexibility to grow. And another thing about if this bridge is gonna protect Alexandria from drowning, it's just as I said in the beginning, it's just a starting point. It's unturned jeopardy. Like, I have this chaos and I'm trying to shift the mentality of the people and their perspective. So there's just a starting point. And as I go before how we speculated on this system, we tried to make it to grow, to try to make it to adjust to different contexts in Alexandria. So in potential sites. So when you do that and this spread all over the city, and this the whole idea of making a parasitic thing that can coexist, this will make a difference. This will make a connection to the place and to the people and to the community. I hope, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe I also add some last word. First of all, I think I have to mention that, like, this is the first year master's study, and most of the students actually were exposed to computational design for the first time. So I think, considering that I mean, this is not maybe the case for everyone, but like really serious computational design, which we think about design system on the one hand, but also materialization and fabrication on the other hand, this was a new experience. And to some extent, I think the groups managed to develop a personalized language, but of course there are some let's say points for improvement, and that's why we are having this critique session today. So I know that it has been a long day. I would like to thank our guests for their wonderful comments, and also all the great work of the students. So with this, I think we can end the official recording of this session, unless if there is a word from in general about the studio from the reviewers, and we would be happy to hear. Christoph, if you want.
Yeah, I think generally it was great work, very cool. I loved all the projects. I think you've done some great things, and yeah, I can see how you've all managed really well to kind of work with the computational tools and think about the fabrication processes and so on. And yeah, I found it very impressive overall, and I think you've done all a great job. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to see all the projects.
Thank you very much. Okay, so maybe with this we end this session. I will ask our guest, and also like some we have also some guests that we don't know, to leave us. We want to say, have a kind of a recap with the studio members. So thank you very much, and hope we keep in touch. We're gonna post some of the results, and maybe the students still have some time to finalize their submission until Monday. So maybe these comments would also help us to be a bit more punctual about what we are going to submit, because this is going to be also probably a project that you later want to use in your portfolio and build on top of it. So I think it was great to receive the comments today. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining, and thanks for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Pim.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. We still have some people that we don't know. Setare, Mina. Setare is gone. No, Setare is not gone. Oh, he's still recording. I have to pause. Or no, we don't. Yes, let's pause. This is gonna be kind of a private session.